The distinguishing woman, the mumayyizah. If the woman's blood exceeds 15 days, then the case is investigated. Is she able to distinguish the difference between the two different types of bleeding or not? The distinguishing woman is the one who experiences the blood with two characteristics, strong and weak. The strong will be judged as menstruation and the weak as defective blood, even if it lasted for a long time, even if that weak bleeding lasted for a long time. In this case, she does not resort to her habitual menstrual cycle. Rather, she relies on her ability to distinguish. So, when it comes to these rules of dealing with defective bleeding, one of the things that you want to remember is that the woman does not give priority to her normal menstrual cycle. She gives priority, firstly, to the rules, and secondly, to her ability to distinguish the bleeding. Or else, she goes by her normal menstrual cycle. What do I mean by that? First, she goes by the rules. So let's say, for example, a woman's habit is to menstruate for 5 days. But the rule is that a woman could menstruate for up to 15 days. So if her menstruation exceeded 5 days, but stopped inside of 15 days, let's say her menstruation exceeded 5 days, on the 6th day, is she going to rush and say this is sickness bleeding? No. Nor the 7th, nor the 8th, as long as it stops inside of 15 days. That's what I meant when I said to you, first she just goes by the rule. She's not going to give priority to her normal menstrual cycle. She'll just say, subhanallah, I normally menstruate like this, but this month it's gone beyond my norm. But I'm still inside of the 15 days, I have to follow the rule. If it goes beyond the 15 days, then she still doesn't resort to her norm, as long as she can tell the difference between the two types of blood. If she can tell the difference between the two types of blood, the menstrual blood and the sickness blood, then she goes by her ability to distinguish and she doesn't go by her norm. And we're going to talk about how to distinguish the defective bleeding from the menstrual bleeding now. When she can't tell the difference between the two types of blood, then she will resort to her normal menstrual cycle. And that will come in its place. So is it all clear so far? The distinguishing woman is the one who experiences the blood with two characteristics, strong and weak. The strong will be judged as menstruation and the weak as defective blood. So this is the rule. First rule for a distinguishing woman is the strong blood is menstruation, the weak blood is defective bleeding. And we're going to talk about what we mean by strong and weak. But know now that we don't mean by strong or weak if it came out a lot or if it came out a little bit. We don't mean by strength the quantity of blood that exits. Rather, we mean by strength certain things that we're going to specify. So in this case, the case where she can distinguish, she does not resort to her habitual menstrual cycle. Rather, she relies on her ability to distinguish. The basis, meaning the evidence, for this type of woman experiencing defective bleeding, meaning the one who can tell the difference, is what Abu Dawood narrated about Fatima bint Abi Hubaysh, that she used to have defective bleeding. So the Prophet ﷺ said to her, إذا كان دم الحيضة فإنه أسود يعرف فإذا كان ذلك فأمسكي عن الصلاة فإذا كان الآخر فتوضئي وصلي. If it is the blood of menstruation, then it is known by being black. So refrain from the prayer. If it is the other blood, make wudu and pray. So now we're going to see what makes blood strong or weak. The strength of the blood is judged by color, thickness, or odor, not by the amount that comes out. The black is stronger than the red is stronger than the pink is stronger than the yellow, and the yellow is stronger than the murky. Hence, the red in comparison to black is weak, and in comparison to the pink is considered strong. The blood which is thick is stronger than that which is thin. The blood that has odor is stronger than the odorless. Some Shafi'is said that nothing is considered for strength other than color, so there is no consideration given to thickness and odor. So exiting in small or large amounts is not the indication of strength. Thus, it might be the case that the blood would be little but black for 10 days, for example, and then plenty of red blood for 7 days, but the strong blood would be the black one only. It's a little bit coming out, but it's black, and then there's a lot coming out, but it's red. Which one is considered strong here? The black one. It is a condition that the strong blood does not fall short of a day and a night and does not exceed 15 days. Okay, the woman who's able to distinguish the difference between her menstrual blood and her sickness blood is the woman who sees that bleeding with two characteristics, strong and weak. But not just that. There's more details than that. That's just the basis. To be a distinguishing woman, she needs to be able to tell the difference between the strong blood and the weak blood. Okay, but there's still more conditions beyond that. I'm first going to explain and then I'm going to read. And inshallah, it will be very clear for you. What else does she need to distinguish other than being able to tell the difference between the strong blood and the weak blood? It depends. Is her bleeding ongoing and non-stop, or did it stop? If her bleeding is ongoing and non-stop, then there's a condition that does not exist if the bleeding stops. Which is what? The condition is that the strong bleeding is like menstruation, so it can't be less than a day and it can't be more than 15 days. And the weak bleeding, it has to be like purity, so it can't be less than 15 days. Now probably what I just said didn't really click, but it's going to click especially when we go over the diagram, inshallah. I'm going to repeat. What does the distinguishing woman need besides being able to see the difference between strong blood and weak blood? It depends. Is her bleeding ongoing non-stop, or it stopped? If her bleeding is ongoing non-stop, then there's a condition, an extra condition, which is that the weak blood has to be at least 15 days. Why the weak blood has to be at least 15 days? Because we said her bleeding is non-stop. It's not stopping. Which means that all the blood is connected. So she has strong blood, weak blood, strong blood, weak blood, strong blood, weak blood. So for her to be a distinguishing woman, that weak blood has to be at least 15 days between the two strong bloods. Or the two strong bleedings. And the strong bleeding has to be like Menses, so it has to be at least a day and not more than 15 days. If her bleeding is not ongoing, if it stops, then this 15 days of weak blood is not a condition. Now, what I just said, it still might not be 100% clear, but let me read now, and let's take a look at the diagrams, and inshallah will become very clear. نسأل الله تعالى أن يوفقنا لما يحبه ويرضاه. It is a condition that the strong blood does not fall short of a day and a night and does not exceed 15 days, because the distinguishing woman considers the strong blood menstruation. And this is the condition of menstruation. It is a condition that the weak blood does not fall short of 15 days. Therefore, if weak bleeding flowed after strong bleeding and continued until connecting to a strong blood after it, it is a condition for her to be considered a distinguishing woman that the weak blood does not fall short of 15 continual days, i.e., it should not be interrupted by a strong bleeding. An example of a distinguishing woman is a woman who experiences strong blood for 10 days, followed by weak blood for 15 days, followed by strong blood for 10 days. Here it is said that the conditions of distinguishing are fulfilled, so she considers the first 10 days as menstruation, the 15 days as defective bleeding, and the last 10 days as menstruation. Those 15 days in which she saw weak blood were actually purity between two menstruations. So let's take a look at the diagram here. She saw 10 days of black blood, which you know that means it's really red. It's just very dark, like it's black, and it's not really black. So it's black in the diagram, but it's not really black in reality. Okay? So she saw 10 days of black blood. And then right after that, the bleeding never stopped, but it became weak. And she saw 15 days of red blood. And then right after that, without stopping, she saw more blood. It became strong again. 10 days of black blood, strong blood. So here, she's a distinguishing woman. She's a mustahada. She's in a state of istihada. The bleeding is ongoing. The bleeding went past 15 days. And what type of mustahada is she? What type of defectively bleeding woman is she? One who can differentiate between the menstrual blood and the sickness blood. Because she saw the strong blood fulfilling the condition of menstruation. What's the condition of menstruation? That it has to be at least 24 hours and not more than 15 days, right? What's the condition of purity between two menstruations? That it has to be at least 15 days. And she saw that too. 15 days of weak blood. And then she saw strong blood also fulfilling the condition of menstruation. At least 24 hours, not more than 15 days. So in this case, she's a distinguishing woman. So now it should be clear. The wording, just hearing the words themselves might not make you understand like you need to understand, but with this picture it becomes very clear, so I'm going to repeat the words. Who is the distinguishing woman, the mumayyizah? She's the woman who sees her bleeding with two characteristics, strong and weak. But not just that. There's another detail past seeing her bleeding with two characteristics. And that detail depends on whether her bleeding was ongoing or not. If her bleeding was ongoing and not stopping, then the condition is that the weak blood has to be at least 15 days between two strong bleedings. The strong bleeding has to be at least a day and not more than 15 days. The weak blood has to be at least 15 days, and it could be very long, but it has to be at least 15 days. And it needs to be connected to a strong bleeding after it. In this case, she's mumayyizah. Is that clear? On the other hand, if the woman experiences 10 days of strong blood, followed by 10 days of weak blood, followed by 10 days of strong blood, then she is not considered fulfilling the conditions of being a distinguishing woman. This is so because the two strong bleedings were not separated by the least of purity, which is 15 days. So, in this second case, she saw 10 days of strong bleeding. Which, okay, as far as the strong bleeding is concerned, it fulfilled the conditions of being menstruation. But then only 10 days of weak bleeding. That does not fulfill the condition of purity. And then 10 days of strong bleeding afterwards. Understand? She's not mumayyizah in this case. That's why we said it's not enough for her just to see the blood with two characteristics. That in itself is not enough. There's still a detail past that. Which is what? Which is that it depends on whether her bleeding was ongoing or not. If the bleeding was ongoing, non-stop, then to be a distinguishing woman, the strong blood has to fulfill the condition of Menses, and the weak blood has to fulfill the condition of purity. And then it has to be followed by a strong bleeding that fulfills the conditions of Menses. In this second example, that didn't happen, so she's not a mumayyizah. The ruling for this case will come. Now, what if her blood did stop? Then that condition of 15 days of weak blood is not a condition. In the case the blood does not flow continuously by her seeing strong blood, then weak blood, then it stops. So what happened was that it didn't continue. She saw strong blood, then weak blood, then it stopped. It is not a condition for the weak blood to be at least 15 days. That's a typo. It is not a condition for the weak blood to be at least 15 days. That's what it should say. That's a big blunder too, because it gives the wrong meaning. It is not a condition for the weak blood to be at least 15 days if the bleeding stops. Hence, if a woman experiences black blood for 10 days, followed by red blood for 10 days, then it stopped, then she is considered a distinguishing woman. And the first 10 days are judged as her menstrual blood, and the rest as defective blood. Although the weak blood was less than 15 days, the woman is considered distinguishing because the blood stopped after the 10 days and was not followed by strong blood uninterruptedly. Yes, I'll repeat. In the case that her blood does not flow continuously, it is not a condition for the weak blood to be at least 15 days. Hence, if a woman experiences black blood for 10 days, followed by red blood for 10 days, then it stopped. In this case, she is a distinguishing woman without the condition of 15 days of weak bleeding. The first 10 days were her menstruation, and the last 10 days were defective bleeding, period. However, let me ask you a question. In this scenario here, where it says she saw 10 days of black bleeding, 10 days of red bleeding, how many days is she going to make up? How many days of makeup does she have in this scenario? Someone said 10. Another person said 10. Whatever it might be, fasting, prayers. Why would she have 10 days of makeup to do? When is she going to start acting like a menstruating woman? On which day, according to this calendar here? Which day is she going to start acting like a menstruating woman? Sunday, the first day. Okay. Which day is she going to know that she's in defective bleeding? No, not the 11th. Not the 20th. It's not the 11th, it's not the 20th. Thank you. 16. On 16, she's going to know she's in defective bleeding. Why?
Because that's past 15 days.
Yeah, because she went past 15 days. So on the first day, she's going to say, I'm menstruating. She sees black blood for 10 days. Then on the 11th day, she notices a change, but she doesn't judge it as anything but menstruation. Why? Because she's still inside of 15 days, right? So she's going to say, I'm still menstruating, inshallah. Once she gets to day 16, she's going to know that, no, she's in defective bleeding. And then, so now how's she going to know when her defective bleeding started? When it became red. So she's going to know actually it started on the 11th. So she has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days to make up. That's clear? But now we're going to see something very nice, inshallah. The author, may Allah have mercy upon her, said, and when we say about the distinguishing woman that the strong blood is menstruation, and the weak blood is sickness bleeding, when we say about the distinguishing woman that the strong blood is menstruation, this includes the case of weaker blood or cleanliness between strong bleedings, and the case of weaker blood that comes after strong blood. That will become clear after we give examples. She is a distinguishing woman if both bloods are suitable to be considered blood of menstruation together. What does that mean? The words alone maybe sound like a riddle, but it will become clear, inshallah. An example of the first case, weaker blood between strong bleedings, as you see, number 1 says, the case of weaker blood or cleanliness between strong bleedings. So an example of the first case, weaker blood between strong bleedings, is if the woman sees 3 days of black blood, followed by a day of red blood, followed by a day of black blood, followed by yellow blood that continued beyond 15 days. She judges the first 5 days as menstruation because both bloods are suitable to be considered blood of menstruation together, and the rest as defective blood. Hence, she considers the black blood with the red that came in between as menstruation. It's clear? Yes, I'll repeat. Let me go back. Let's look at the rule. Let's see what did the author say. When we say about the distinguishing woman, that she's a distinguishing woman, when we say about the distinguishing woman that the strong blood is menstruation, this includes 2 cases. One is the case of weaker blood or cleanliness between strong bleedings. And 2 is the case of weaker blood that comes after strong blood. She is a distinguishing woman if both bloods are suitable to be considered menstruation together. So an example of the first case, which is weaker blood between strong bleedings, is if the woman sees 3 days of black blood, followed by a day of red blood, followed by a day of black blood, followed by yellow blood that continued beyond 15 days. She judges the first 5 days as menstruation because both bloods together are suitable to be considered blood of menstruation, and the rest is defective bleeding. Is that clear? So what might be confusing for a person in this case is that now the person is seeing 3 colors. So when she saw 3 colors, she might say, nah, now what am I going to do? So when we say that the strong blood is menstruation for the distinguishing woman, this includes the case of a weaker blood coming in between 2 stronger bleedings, but all of them together are suitable to be menstruation, and the rest will be sickness blood. So in this case, we have 3 days of black blood, followed by a day of red blood, followed by a day of black blood, and then the yellow blood came and went beyond 15. How many days are her menstruation in this case? 5. That's clear? The red blood with the black blood was suitable to be menstruation in comparison to the yellow blood. Yes, go ahead, ask your question. Is that because of the yellow one is not stopped at the 15th day? Well, in this case, for sure she's in a state of istihada because it went past 15 days. So then her question is going to be, when did the istihada start? So if she said, how I saw in this month that I saw 3 colors of blood, then she looks, were 2 of those 3 stronger than the other and suitable to be menstruation together? If so, then that's the menstruation and the rest is the sickness bleeding. How about if the yellow stopped on the 15th of the calendar that you depicted? Then all of it is menstruation. Didn't we say that menstrual blood has 5 colors? If it stopped on the 15th, then she menstruated. That's it. The author, may Allah have mercy on her, said, likewise, if she sees 1 day black blood, then it stops. Then 1 day black blood, then she sees red blood past the 15 days. She considers the first 3 days as days of menstruation and the rest is defective. This is the case of cleanliness between 2 strong bleedings. So if we just look up again at the bottom of page 16, when we say about the distinguishing woman that the strong blood is menstruation, this includes the case of weaker blood or cleanliness between strong bleedings, and the case of weaker blood that comes after strong blood. So we just saw here cleanliness between 2 strong bleedings, black blood, no blood, black blood, and then the red blood went beyond 15 days. So then her menses was the 3 days, the first 3 days. That's clear? And this second day, which has no blood, is described here in the text as cleanliness, which in Arabic is called naqa, and it's different from tuhur. If you remember from the previous class, I told you there's something called tuhur. That means the woman is not menstruating or having postpartum bleeding, and there's something else too, which is naqa. Naqa is different from tuhur. What's the meaning of naqa? Naqa means there's no blood. Tuhur means she's not menstruating. But that doesn't mean the same thing. Could a woman be having blood but she's not menstruating? Okay. Could she be having blood and she's not menstruating or postpartum bleeding? Yes. So then she's in a state of tuhur. But there's no naqa because she's bleeding. And could the woman be menstruating while she sees no blood? Yes. So she could be menstruating, however, there's naqa. So don't mix those 2 up. And the worship she does during the time of naqa is not valid because really she's still menstruating. So we're going to call tuhur purity, and we're going to call naqa cleanliness. An example of the second case, which is weaker blood that comes after stronger blood, is if a woman sees 3 days of black blood, followed by 3 days of red blood, followed by pink blood until it passed 15 days. Tayyib. So we have 3 colors here. There's a strong one, there's a weak one, and there's one in between. So that strong one with that medium one, both together work as a team to be the menstruation, and then the rest, which is pink, is the sickness bleeding. So let me read what's there. An example of the second case, which is weaker blood that comes after strong blood, is if a woman sees 3 days of black blood, followed by 3 days of red blood, followed by pink blood until it past 15 days, then she judges the black and the red blood as her menstruation, both of them. Okay. So that's clear? This case with the pink blood is clear? If she sees 7 days of black blood, followed by 10 days of red blood, followed by 10 days of yellow blood, in this case, she cannot judge the red with the black as menstruation because together they exceed 15 days, the red with the black. So the red alone can't be the menstruation because there's a black blood. Can the black and the red be menstruation together compared to the yellow? Correct answer, no they can't because they go beyond 15 days. Then, in this scenario, only 7 days are menstruation and all the rest is sickness bleeding. The black is the menstruation and the red and the yellow are sickness bleeding. Is that clear? Yes, she is a discriminating woman in this case because she can see that her menses is 7 days and that the rest of it is sickness. So, however, if she sees 7 days of black blood, followed by 10 days of red blood, followed by 10 days of yellow, here she cannot judge the red with the black as blood of menstruation because together they exceed 15 days. And of course, she cannot deem the red as menstruation because there's a black one. So the stronger one is the one that has to be the menses. In such an instance, the black blood alone will be considered menstrual blood, and the red and the yellow as defective. Now, we're going to add more details. The author, may Allah have mercy upon her, said, moreover, the strong blood might appear before the weak blood, might come after it, or it might come in the middle.